Hey, it's Warren Huart here. Hope you're doing marvelously well. Today I'm talking to John Brandt. How the devil are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Where are you based?
It's good to be
Where
here.
are you at the moment? Because we just had this conversation.
Jakarta, Indonesia. And that is in the, let's see, what's it? When I look at the time zone, it says Hanoi, something, Jakarta time zone. So I'm in the same time zone as
China.
Yeah, China. I'm not sure if it's a Beijing time
Oh,
zone, but it's I think it's over a little bit to the west of Beijing.
So then I'm not going to get this right. So what is your official job description? I don't want to mess it up.
Official job description is I help people like you do your job easier.
That's a good start.
I help provide a place where you can do your thing, you know.
So if I was going to say acoustician, that would be like scratching the surface.
Probably.
Right.
Because, I mean, I started off being a roadie, you know, back in the early 70s and just worked my way up. My son is a live sound engineer in LA now and doing very well.
Oh, he is? Whereabouts in LA is he?
I'll have to look up his Facebook.
Because that's where I am. I'm in Los Angeles.
I just know LA. Okay, cool. He's very so.
Fantastic. So you must have had an incredible journey then. If you've started off, where were you born?
I was born in Coalinga, California, right on the fault line.
Oh, nice.
Now I live on another fault line. No, just kidding.
So we were just jokingly talking about gear sluts, but we both spend time on there, and we understand the value of the conversation that people have over there, and that's where I discovered you, because you're active on there. People come to you as an authority on acoustics. So how did you get your start in that world?
Love of music. I like to hear it right. I like to hear it good. The thing is, let me go back on something that you just said. An authority. There are no authorities.
Oh, trust me, I believe that too.
There are experts, yes, but an authority is something you don't challenge and you don't question.
Absolutely.
I love to be questioned because I love to teach and I love people to learn, and I hope I do my very best to give accurate answers.
Absolutely.
And, you know, lead them to the truth, or lead them to more questions and to find out and look, searching for the best answer.
Right. So now I've seen a lot of stuff that you've done on acoustic design, on studio design. How are you working? Are you doing things remotely these days? People are sending you information and then you plan. Tell me a little bit about it.
I do everything remote.
Great.
Everything is done remote. I love this technology. Actually, I'm probably the oldest geek you know. I built 2 monster computers to run my AutoCAD. I run it at the highest. This one's pounding away right now at 4.6 gigahertz, overclocked, water cooled, all that kind of stuff. And I run AutoCAD 2016, and I use solids, and I do very complex and detailed drawings. So it makes, ends up with drawings you get, it's 200 megabytes and stuff, which is, anybody working in architectural will say, whoa, man, that's like 100, that's 200 times larger than our biggest files.
Right.
But I love the technology and the ability. Like right now, we're talking face to face, and we're each on the opposite side of the world. It's wonderful, and more and more we can use this, and not only I can save my clients money, because otherwise they'd fly me there, me and my family, and they'd have to put us up, and we'd have to have the crew come in, and it would just quadruple the cost of their build, and it's not necessary. There's a lot of good builders out there that can follow directions, and I love to work with these guys. I'm always learning something new from them. I've been a builder, and that's how I can do this. I've done all the steps all the way through. Wonderful. Building houses, condos, and whatever.
So you have a complete overview of studio construction, of acoustics and stuff. So this is wonderful. I think for a lot of people watching this, they're gonna, I don't expect you to give away every single piece of information, but is there a way? What would you say is the number one issue that studio owners have, especially small studio owners? Because even though I have a beautiful studio, this is my studio, it's still what I would consider to be a small studio. I've got a nice sized control room, a little drum room, but it's basically a converted 2-car garage, which I would say is probably, even of guys like me with lots of credits, I mean, most of us have these kind of studios now. I was just at Brad Wood's house the other day. Brad did the Smashing Pumpkins, and he has a setup like that. So what do you think is the number one thing that you encounter every day that we have to improve upon?
Bass management.
Bass management, right.
If you get the low frequency right in the room, where you can have a sweet spot, at least, shoulder width, at least that.
Right.
Then you can work, because you don't have reflections and you don't have nulls and peaks and everything. It's relatively accurate at that position. The more you treat your room, the broader the sweet spot goes. I did a blog on my site. It's in one of my blogs about the DC.
Great, we'll link to your site below this.
Okay, and you can read that, and it talks about the trapping that you need to put into a room to get it tamed. Okay. Actually, I honestly don't have any secrets.
No, it's great. I'm the same way.
I'm happy.
You see my videos, I'll tell anybody anything. Yeah.
Some designers do. I don't. I want people to learn. We're only here for a very short while, as Cat Stevens said. Yeah,
I don't know when this is going to air. Probably not for a couple of weeks. But last night, David Bowie died, and that was huge to me, and I agree. At 69 years old, a guy that probably revolutionized the music industry in so many ways, has been at the forefront for over 40 years. It was devastating. I was a baby last night.
Yeah.
And I still feel like I've lost a member of my family. Yeah. It's pretty incredible. Yeah. But yes, that really does sum it up, When the really great people, they can give so much back. And I want to be at least a piece of that, to me. And also I think that, with a guy like you that really understands this, if people, you're not taking anything away from yourself by giving information away, because people will come back to you again and again and again, because they'll realize that you're an open person that's willing to share information, and grow and learn. So the acoustic, so the bass trapping stuff, I talked to Barry Rudolph a bit about this. He gave us some kind of stuff, but I suppose one of the things that I have to ask is, because most people obviously don't have that much of a budget. Music to them is a passion, it's a love, but it's probably a hobby, at least for the time being, for a lot of people, until they can increase their income from it. So,
right.
What are some of the sort of cheaper solutions, I suppose, that you would suggest?
Owens Corning pink stuff. Just get some attic blanket, man.
Attic blankets.
Yeah, to put it in, you don't even have to build frames for the crap. Just put it in bags. Put it in bags and hang it on the corners. It'll look like hell, but it'll work.
Right. No, that's great.
Yeah. Mattresses don't work. Egg crates don't work.
No, I know egg crates don't work.
All that stuff. But guys are still trying it. They still want to try that, but it's okay. I heard from a friend down at the music store. He's got a buddy that plays guitar, and he's got his garage. He's got egg crate and so forth, and he loves the sound in his.
That's crazy.
So people keep doing the same things.
So I love this idea of what do you call them? Attic blankets.
What's an attic blanket? You know, the pink stuff, you climb up in your attic,
Yeah.
and if they use the fiberglass, you know, now they have in England it's called a loft roll.
Right.
But it's in the loft, it's in the attic.
Sure.
And a lot
Used
of times.
to be fiberglass when I was a kid.
Exactly. It's fiberglass. Well, it's attic blanket. It's the big roll of pink stuff, and it comes tight wrapped, and you unroll it, and it fluffs out big, okay, because it's compressed when it's rolled.
Right.
Go to Home Depot, Lowe's, any of those places, DIY home building stuff.
Wonderful.
You know, another point that I want to make to help people,
please,
is that in the studio building business for 70 years more, studio builders have always used architectural supply. That's building supply. Nothing special, nothing, you know, it's just that's all we got until we come up with now back in the 20s and 30s, they started using cork as an isolator, you know, for vibration isolation.
Right.
So, you know, and then start doing formulations with rubber and cork. And now we got new chemical formulas, neoprene and sorbethane and Silamer and all the kind of cool stuff. And of course, we've always used steel springs, and steel springs are great for floating. But those are specialty things that the home studio guy doesn't need to worry about, really.
Right.
I mean, another point that I also want to help people building a home studio. I was actually in the middle of doing a post on Gear Sluts when you called, and a person was asking about my B&E criteria, and I was describing, well, in a lot of studios you can't do that, and he's talking about a single partition. You got a garage, like y'all got so many garage builds we've done. You got your exterior sheeting and whatever siding you have on there, and sometimes you have stucco, which is excellent for soundproofing.
Oh, it is?
Because it's mass, because it's heavy. You want mass, and in the airspace between that outside mass and the inside mass, you want to fill it up with insulation. Then you want another mass on the inside partition. And these panels resonate differently, hopefully. Right. If they resonate the same, then you have a pass-through at that resonant frequency. But that's getting complicated for most people. The best you can do, usually, on a single wall partition where everything's coupled together, you don't have a room in a room, but it's all stuck together.
Right.
No matter what mass you get, you're not going to get a lot better than about 56 dB, STC 56. That's about tops for a single wall partition.
Right. Okay.
And unless you have poured concrete, 2 feet thick, and then the weird thing about acoustics is soundproofing works. Say you have a concrete wall, you have it 8 inches thick. If you want to get 6 decibels better noise reduction, you have to double that mass, double the weight.
Wow.
And then you want to get 6 dB more, you double that. So just figure on tops 56 dB isolation.
Yes, my studio is a box within a box. I basically, there's about that much space between the walls, and it's basically a box, and then inside it is another box.
Good. Yeah, good. You got good isolation.
Yeah, good isolation. I mean, sometimes if we're tracking super late at night, you hear like a little low rumble in the house. As of yet, I haven't had any complaints. But I try not to work too much into the night, although, in this wonderful world of rock and roll, there's not much I can do.
That's right.
I'm doing Ace Frehley's record at the moment, and, we're up against it because we're mastering on Thursday, and it's a Monday today for those. Obviously, not everybody's going to be watching this on Monday. And it was a crazy weekend. I had Lita Ford, John 5, Matt Starr, Ace, all tracking, and So you definitely. My point is like things get crazy. You end up working super late at night. So especially for a lot of people that are even hobbyists, they're going to be working 9 to 5. They're going to come home. They're going to have dinner, and then They're going to be working till 1 o'clock in the morning. So this stuff is really, really important. I mean, is it essentially like if you had say a bedroom or something like that, would you build a framework within that? Maybe is the best way. Build like false
It depends
walls?
on how big the room is to make it worthwhile. We recently did a little mastering room in Brooklyn, and we floated the whole room.
Oh wow!
And it's on the 3rd floor of an old, old part of Brooklyn where they're basically condominiums where everything's connected like that.
Sure.
So he's got neighbors everywhere, up and down. Wasn't easy, but we did it, and it works.
That's great.
But the whole thing is floating. So
that's presumably a relatively expensive undertaking.
Yeah. That's well, I think. Well, that's in Brooklyn too, and the builder
so it's in New York, so
more,
it's even more expensive. Yeah.
It was getting close to $100K.
Right. Yeah, a lot of money, and obviously in New York, which is even more expensive. So I think for a lot of people, then they're doing this, on a sort of a hobby basis. I love the idea of this attic insulation, and I think what we're all led to understand is to put bass traps into corners. Is that correct?
Yes, it's not. I've heard it said that because bass gathers in the corners. It's not that it gathers there. It's just that it's more observable because it's a boundary effect. And you have one boundary, you get closer to the floor, you can hear more bass. Closer to the back wall, you can hear more bass. That's often in the studio, even pro studios, you hear more bass at the couch.
Absolutely.
And my friend Wes Lachaud, he builds studios, he designs them so that he doesn't really kill that bass at the couch because people like that, So if you have a boundary, a wall, floor boundary, ceiling, wall boundary, that's a corner. So you will have a doubling up, a 6 dB increase in bass in that corner. Right. Now, at the wall ceiling corner or the wall floor corner, that's three surfaces. So you'll have about 6, that's 12. And then three quarters would be 18 dB more bass. Excuse me.
Right. I see.
So if you put your trap there, it's really going to be effective. Very, very effective trapping there.
Right.
Now, if you put a bass trap out in the middle of the room where it's a velocity zone, absorbent like attic blanket works very well still. But it's not going to get your bass waves that much.
Right.
You just want to catch meta boundary where you can really increase the efficiency.
Right. That makes perfect sense. Now, with high frequencies, I was always led to believe that it was all about irregular angles, a lot to do with, where you have standing waves, where everything is exactly the same distance away. Could you elaborate on that? Because I'm very naive on this.
I'm going to open up a spreadsheet that I use. This is something I created, and you guys can go to my resources page and download them.
Great.
All right, here we go. Now, this is my spreadsheet. You'll enter your length, width, and height here. I know you can't see. This is really...
it's a little really pixelated for people sitting out there.
Just a minute. Let me zoom in here. Click this. Roll up. All right, and I'm going to... Oh, shoot. I should click that cell before I try to...
Oh, there you go. I think we should be able to see that better. Yeah.
So you zoom in here.
You
good. Put your... Yeah, a lot better. You put your length, width, and height in here, and I got it programmed to calculate your modes. And these are all your modes. Axial, tangential, for this. And it'll give you your floor area, wall areas, and your ideal mix position at 0.375% of the room front to back. Now, I've included a section here. I'm going to go down here. You can see it automatically calculates. Let me zoom out just a wee bit. Right there. Okay. So your wave region in this room I didn't say what the dimensions were, but
right.
This room is 25 hertz. It's a larger room. And it starts at 25. This is where it enters the pressure zone. This is 92.5, and this is based on the amount of treatment that's put in. And this is all pre-calculated for you if you use this calculator to tell you this is the maximum RT60 you want in that room.
Can you explain RT60?
Okay, this is reverberation time 60 seconds. It means how long it takes for a sound to decay down minus 60 decibels from its original level.
Great. Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay. And
I don't think people will know what RT60 was except. Well, I'm sure there are people that are going to understand this.
Right. So
but
in this region,
treat me like an idiot. That will help.
Okay.
I'm perfectly fine with that. I am definitely. I definitely don't. I try to. There's lots of experts on YouTube telling everybody how to do everything properly. I know that I'm just like the rest of us. I'm still learning, and I love this stuff.
Well, I am too.
Yeah.
I am too. So, and that, just that, I am too.
Perfect. So
we're always learning.
So basically, what this will allow you to do is you put in the measurements, the size of your room, and it will give you it will tell you what kind of frequencies you're dealing with. That it's going to be a build-up. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yes, it's going to show you. Look, here's the room length is 264. That's 22 feet. 200.4. That's 16.7 feet,
yep.
And 123 high is 10.3 feet. Okay. I'm going to zoom out here. Now I have a graph. If you can see this graph right here.
Yep.
Let's see. Zoom in a little bit. Nah. Never mind. It's not very good over Skype.
That's
but
okay.
You can see all these bands, they're pretty evenly spaced. And you don't see any lines shooting up into here, which means there's no double coincidences. And this is what you want to avoid in any enclosure, any rectangular cuboid, which is the usual shape of a control room or music room. No double incidences. What you want to look for is when you measure the dimensions, you want to avoid common denominators, and you will get a plot like this. Right. Same here. You want to pass the Bonello distribution chart. So we have.
Can you describe what the Bonello distribution chart is?
Bonello. Okay, I'm terrible at remembering names, but
it's quite
this
all right.
guy. This guy, Mr. Bonello, came up with this ideal distribution chart. Okay, if you have a room of such and such a size, it must have so many modes in these third octave bands. And this chart is calculated to provide that criteria according to what you enter. So it'll say, okay, you got this size of room, you need this many modes. So it'll show you in the red bands how these are where you need the modes. And the blue bands are the actual of this room. And as long as your blue bands are at least equal or above the red bands, you're good to go. Okay? Now, as I was explaining here, in the mid and high frequency, the sound waves behave as rays right here. Here's the ray region. And they shoot like a bullet, all right? In here, they're mixed. In the transition or diffusive region, they act like rays and they act like waves, and they can curve around objects. And here, they act like waves. Think of waves in the ocean.
Sure.
And I use this sort of metaphor of ocean waves when I describe to my clients how to place wave guides in their corners to assist in the breakup of these waves and to help tame them.
Right.
So we run heavy vertical pieces of MDF, 3/4 inch MDF. It's 18 or 19 millimeter MDF to you metric people. Actually, the U.S. should go metric because I now do all my calculations in metric. It's so easier. It's so much easier. Anyway,
I'm of the age group in England where I was the crossover. So when I was a little kid, we were imperial, as we called it, and then we changed to metric. So I was like one of the first generations that had to embrace it. But it still was weird. When I left England, we were still it was still gallons for gasoline or petrol, as we call it.
Right.
And it's now liters, but it was gallons when I left. The currency and everything, and the measurements were all in millimeters. It was a real mess. And we still talk about miles per hour. You know, it's tough. You know, it's people run the 4-minute mile. They don't run the, you know what I mean? They don't run the 3.97 kilometer. You know what I mean?
Well, it also has a lot to do with culture, and I love culture.
Sure,
I do. I don't want to destroy culture. I think we should keep culture, and still learn new ways, though. You know.
Oh, I agree. And for builders and building stuff, everything's still. You know, in England, people will say, you know, I need a piece of 4x2. You know, they're not going to say I need whatever that would equate to in millimeters.
90 by 40. Yeah.
Is that 4x2?
Yeah, millimeters. Yeah. A 9 by 4 centimeter.
Oh, well, yeah. I would have thought it was like fractions of centimeters and millimeters. But anyway,
you got to round it off.
Yeah, you have to sort of round it off. Yeah, that's a very, and of course and that's when it's cut wet. So that gets really confusing. You see stuff and you're like, that's not really 2x4 because it's like wet.
Oh,
cut.
right, exactly. I'm talking about actual dimensions.
Yeah,
it's a 9x4 in actual, but a 2x4 is 1.5 inches by 3.5.
Yeah, because it's
a 1x6 is 3/4 inch by 5.5 inches.
Because it's the wet cut as opposed to the dry cut.
Well, yeah, they take a rough wet cut, okay, and they kiln dry it and everything. Then they run it through the planers and the shapers, and that's what you get.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So a 2x4 is not 2x4.
No. That's right.
Absolutely crazy. Okay, so I love the information. We've got the idea of the attic. What do you call them? Attic blankets?
Attic blanket.
Okay.
Or just regular wall insulation.
Perfect.
You don't need the FRK. That's foil reinforced craft paper. You don't need the paper side. You can take it off. It's best just to buy it without it in the first place because it's a pain in the butt to take it off.
And then as far as like building some of these high reflection kind of things, what do you think is a reasonable solution for most of us to build the high frequency absorptions?
Okay.
Or
high
dissipation, I should say.
High frequencies are easily handled.
Okay, good.
They are. I mean, didn't you own one of the first NS10s that were put out?
Oh yeah, I still have some.
Did you tape a piece of toilet paper over the tweeter?
I did, the first ones, yeah.
That really cut it. I mean, it really did the job.
Joe Ciccarelli still has a piece of toilet paper over his.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people still put it over the new ones, that don't need it.
Yeah.
We get into superstitions and stuff.
Oh no! In the music industry, superstitions. I have an old console over there, a Kodak, and it was a console from Pi Studios. A beautiful console. It made made the Who and the Kinks and Bowie records. I love this console, and it has a lot of lights that controlled like control room functions that are no longer connected. But I still want to see those lights on, even though there's no audio passing through them.
I remember my Nashville days. Ray Kennedy, my friend, he wanted me to design a little area section of his console so he could put in with a switch. It says demo, album or a hit. And he'd go in and he'd have it on demo, and a producer walk in, a musician walk in and say, well, let's put it on hit. And he turns it and says, how do you like that? Oh, God, it's such a difference.
Yeah. That's a great idea. Well, they'd always have the A&R fader, wouldn't they? They'd have the fader,
I was working when I was working for Bob Millsap. He said, he was commenting on these producers that would come in there and says, you could make a fader over here. This is the producers, they could ride that fader for the overall level.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Oh yes, I know it's. But it's all part of the psychology. I mean, all laughing aside, as you know, when you're working with artists, managers, you're engineering and you have a producer that because listen, the music industry is much like any entertainment industry. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors as well as the technical side. You and I live in the technical side, and as I started off as a musician, then an engineer, and then a producer. But I made a lot of records as an engineer with producers that I don't know how to put this delicately, so I probably won't. But they just decided one day they were a producer. They lots of guys they didn't play instruments, they couldn't sing, they'd never written a song, they didn't know how to engineer, but they were a producer, and maybe they will. I don't know. And I think that's very true of the film industry as well. I mean, it's the entertainment industry. I'm not trying to be critical of the music industry as such, but there's a lot of people that they decide this is what they're going to do and they start doing it. And all power to them. But absolutely, as an engineer and you as an acoustician, we've got to work in facts.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and is it? It's the proof of the pudding is in the eating.
Yes, my dad would always say
Yeah.
that.
Just make it good. Make it good. If you make it good, good deal. I don't really. I hear you when you talk about some people that are trying to be, that. We all, it's like Steve Martin said to a heckler once in the audience, says, "Oh yeah, I remember my first beer." It's just, we all have to start there sometime.
My old friend Ollie Alcock, was my mentor in England, who basically just revolutionized me musically, just put me in the right direction. He used to get heckled, and he'd always say, "Hey, I'm paid to look stupid. What's your excuse?" I love that one.
Well, I've said many times to my clients, and as I was about to say to you earlier, before we started, is that my job is just to make you guys, help you guys to do your job better, better, faster, easier, and more enjoyable. That's it. You really, guys like you and many of the engineers and producers that I know, they don't need any acoustics. They could work in a tin, a metal, bomb shelter and still turn out good mixes. I mean, it'd take them a while, but they could do it.
Yeah. One thing I'm really starting to talk about, because I really firmly believe this, because my journey has been one of a lot of hustle. I've been doing this a long time. There's no overnight success for me. I wasn't one of these guys, like the first record I did went multi-platinum or anything like that. I've been doing this a long time, and I've worked with many artists. I've been very blessed. However, one of the biggest thing I've learned in my journey that I wish somebody had said to me is trust your ears. Trust your ears.
Yes.
And I don't. All of these guys online, they're all experts, and they're telling us this and they're telling us that. And the one thing they don't say is trust your ears. They're almost like trying to sell something to somebody by going, this is the way to do it. And like we said, there's no authorities and stuff. There's a million ways to make music. And as I've always say, if we all like the same music, then the Beatles wouldn't have sold 300 million records. They would have sold 300 billion records. Every person in the planet over the last 60, 50 years or whatever would have bought a Beatles record. So we don't all love and listen to music in the same way. But the biggest thing for me for the trust your ears thing is, like, I used to pull up like a mix or something and be working in an unfamiliar room or whatever it is and think, oh, this sounds boomy, this sounds this. But I'd be like, no. Even though I hear it like this, I must be wrong. Because some guy or some book I read or some video I saw, whatever it is, told me that this, and this. And I realized the older I get and the more I do this, now I go with my instincts. I pull something up and I know what to correct. And I get there really, really quickly, not because I get there quicker, not because I'm some genius. God, I am not a genius. I'm certainly not an authority. What I am now is I hear things exactly like I used to, and I go, okay, I need to correct this, I need to correct that. And I think that to your point, it's easy for me to walk into any room and make something sound good. However, now that I have the acquired knowledge and I know how to get things to sound good, now I want my room to sound better. Because it's weird. When I was younger, I didn't care. And I think, again, it's like there's a lot of misinformation. And the whole purpose of doing this is to help people. And for me, because my journey has been long, I want to remove a lot of those obstacles that I've found. And
yes.
So
indeed.
back the high frequency stuff. What would be your sort of like your cheap-ish solution to high frequency issues?
For high frequencies?
Yeah.
Again, I'm sending folks to my resources page.
No, please.
Get my let's see, reflections, boundaries, mass spreadsheet. It's in the list of spreadsheets that you can download. I think on the first page it has a reflections page, and it has a picture of a guy sitting at a desk and a panel here and the speakers there, and it has calculation, and just enter in the distances and it'll tell you where to put these panels on the side walls.
Great.
The reflection panels.
Perfect.
That's primary. The things you need to treat are your corners to get the trapping that you need, so that your DC increases. It's the room criteria, and it's based on the amount of absorption you have in your room. And in other words, it gives you a near field bubble, okay? Because outside of, you have a source sound, and the distance that source sound travels before it becomes steady state in the room. For instance, you stand right, say in the mixed position, you sit there, and you have somebody start in the corner and walk slowly towards you, saying, droning at the same tone, the same level, 1, 1, 1, 1. And as soon as you hear it starting to get louder, tell them stop. That is your room DC.
Right.
That's the critical distance of your room. And that's where he just walked out of the diffuse field into the near field.
Nice.
It's a quick and easy way to see if you have enough trapping in your room.
So do me a favor, because that was such an amazing piece of information. Would you describe it one more time for me? No, it's just important. I love this stuff.
Okay. The critical distance in a room, it enables, like in a tracking room, it is very important. It's more especially important in a tracking room. Now, in a control room, the critical distance is going to be fairly large because there's lots of treatment in a typical control room, critical listening room. In a tracking room, people tend to call it a live room because they think that it's supposed to be live, but it's not. It's where live performance is done.
Sure.
Sometimes there's some ambient sound, there's some reflections. I like to put stone walls in my tracking rooms, but there is plenty of damping in most of my tracking rooms for the very reason that you need to get the critical distance large enough so that you can say, mic a whole jazz band all at once. You got drums here, you got bass player, you got upright, you got piano, you got vocalists and stuff, and you can mic them, and the sound from the vocalist doesn't muddle up into the microphone of the upright bass player. You know, you can even use an omni mic on that bass. You get it just the right distance.
Right. That's fantastic.
Same. So if you have a good tracking room, you can do that and not worry about bleed into the mics. So you need a fall off of about, nearly at least 26 dB, if not 30, if you can get it. Right. So that requires quite a bit of trapping. So you got to get out of the ambient field.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. So if you've got a relatively large live room, if you can control it like that, you can track multiple instrumentalists. Exactly. Some live rooms, I track a lot at Sunset Sound and I track a lot at United, and those are both classic studios from the 50s and 60s. That Sunset Sound started on Disney recordings. The owner of the studio, still owned by the same family, the original owner of the studio, the father of the current owner, was a Disney engineer, and he went to Disney one day and said, hey, you're spending all this money, recording in various different studios all over Los Angeles, doing all these soundtracks. Why don't you build your own studio? And Disney said, no, we don't want to do that, but why don't you build one for us? And so they've got this room, which is basically an old garage. He bought a mechanic's garage. And what's great about it, as you would understand, is the floor is uneven and it goes to a corner because it used to have all the oil drip to the corner.
Yeah.
So they ended up with this irregular shaped room, unwittingly, which was great. So what you have lack of standing waves because you have a floor which is going like at an angle, a ceiling that's going at a different angle. They put some trapping in there, and the room is large but not massive, not like Olympic Studios massive or even Abbey Road massive. It's just a large room-ish, largest room, and they had an orchestra at one end, crammed in there, and like live band, and the current owner told me that for about the first 5 years, the singer would be in the room with the band.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So these were like stereo or mono recordings for some of the most famous Disney movies that we've ever seen were done in that room. And then it was, I don't know if it was Bruce Botnick, but it was one of the staff engineers said, it's really difficult to mix the vocals when everything is bleeding into it. So they built a vocal booth in like 1958 or whatever, and that was like the first official vocal booth. And it's amazing how this stuff comes about. But I will say in that room, it's pretty even most places, except for a couple of like bass lifts, which actually are nice once you know them.
Exactly. Yeah, you want those in a tracking room.
Oh, great.
Because you can use them for effect.
Exactly.
It's great. Tracking room is like a creative space. I mean, it's like you don't want to kill it down everywhere.
Right.
I absolutely.
Yeah. There's this one lift there, which is great for drums. You pull back a mic at a certain place on the kit, and the whole bottom end on the kit gets there.
Right.
You can use a mono mic. And because they did a lot of Zeppelin there, you get like, here's the John Bonham drum sound with just the one mic. It's pretty phenomenal. And then, of course, United Recorders is which was Ocean Wave for a bit in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, but it was back to its original name. United did all the Beach Boys stuff, or most of the Beach Boys stuff, with Gold Star, and that is a very well treated room. I was just in there the other day. There's a couple of places with bass lifts, so you end up moving the kit around to find it. But yeah, these are well treated rooms because of what you're saying, because they were proper live rooms where they had drums. Have you seen Love and Mercy, the movie yet, the Brian Wilson movie?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's fantastic. For those of you watching, watch Love and Mercy, because they filmed a lot of it in those studios that we're talking about, or these LA studios. And the whole band is in there. Hal Blaine is on drums. Carol Kay is sitting there. There's a guitar player, Barney Kessel, whoever was on the session, or Howard Roberts or whatever. And just all these players, and then horn players, and they're all in a room. And not like an enormous, auditorium, just like a decent-sized, large-ish room, but they're all sitting next to each other like this, all playing, all being recorded live, and it's phenomenal. And I think it's where all the stuff you're talking about, the acoustics comes into play, because if that was echoing all over the place, it would be a nightmare. They put it up on faders, and it would just be absolutely horrific.
Still be mush. Yeah. That's right.
So getting back to what is the sort of inexpensive solution for the high frequencies as far as like purchasing products for a control room?
Well, there's a lot to be said for these RLX or foam type things that people buy. However,
the sort of gray ones that look like egg
or whatever, they make all kinds. But you have to remember something about this. They make these wedges.
Yep.
So that they can sell more product for cheaper.
Right.
And the thinner it is, the less effective it is.
Okay.
So those wedges are effective here, but ineffective here. Effective here, ineffective here. You know, where the wedge goes in.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Because it's not. If it was just a flat piece of foam, a good open cell acoustic foam, it worked great. The thing is,
so why do they do the indentation?
It's marketing. Looks cool. You know? It looks like an anechoic wedge, but it actually decreases the efficiency of the unit. But that's okay.
No, this is great information.
Yeah. What I'm about to say is that foam looks nice. It really looks nice. Arlex is about the best stuff that you can get because it's gently scooped, gently scalloped a little bit, you know, like that. It's not deep wedges. However, the foam products are at least twice the cost of a glass wool based product.
Right.
At least twice the cost. When you look at what they do, their effectiveness, most foam products are 2 inches thick. That's it.
Yep. Okay.
And glass wool or rock wool or Owens Corning 703, which is the rigid fiberglass panels made with that stuff, are usually about 4 inches thick.
Right.
And they're way more effective.
Oh, they are. Are they cheaper?
Yes. They're cheaper than foam for sure.
So they're more effective and cheaper.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's a great piece of information. So you were saying there's different suppliers that you could recommend?
Many different suppliers. You know,
right?
Go with ones that have testing data. That's what I recommend.
Right.
Get products that have testing data so you know what they do, and you can compare apples to apples and go for it. Or you can build them yourself.
Right.
It's nothing but wood frames with glass wool and fabric cover. That's all it is.
I suppose my question is, do they need to be in a wood frame if you're buying?
Not really.
Right.
It's
just about looking nice.
For example, GIK makes a product that it's not lightweight glass wool. It is like Owens Corning 703 or similar.
Yep.
It's about 4 pounds per cubic foot glass wool. It's rigid. And it's a couple of layers, and then it's wrapped with fabric, and it has a thin little wood back frame, and it's all stapled on there. It looks really great. You just hang it on a hook on the wall. It's nice. When I design treatment for even home studios or pro studios, we build walls of treatment. So when you walk into one of our rooms, it's all treatment, and it's all different. It's designed to do certain things. I usually do soft flushing on the front where we put the monitors in the treatment, and all of the front wall is usually reflective of sorts. We have slats on it or something like that. Some people don't like the slats, so they cover it with fabric. It still has the same effect. And
what do the slats do?
The slats give you reflection. When I'm talking to you right now, I'm hearing my voice bounce off the screen, off the wall in front of me. I can close my eyes, I hear a room. Okay. Right. Same way with as Tom Hidley described in his criteria for the non-environment room. You can still hear yourself talking off the front wall and off the reflective floor. Everything else is dead. I mean, really dead. I'd use reflection grating on the sides and in the back.
So it's kind of an interesting thing. You're deadening it down, but you're trying to control it. So you're not
control
getting it.
Is the key. Control.
Right.
Many guys. Okay, guys out there, when you're building your studio and you're putting treatment up, and you start getting this feeling like it's too dead, that should be telling you that you've killed off all the highs and mids, and you're not trapping enough. Because it's pretty much impossible to get too much trapping, but you can get it lopsided to where you have just a pretty good amount, but you don't have it going deep enough. So your RT60 is like this at the high and mid, and then at the low end, it just starts going way up like that.
Right.
So you have a boomy sound, but everything else is dead, and it's kind of sucks your brains out feeling.
And so apart from obviously trusting our ears and hearing that, what are ways that we can measure it?
Measure it. There's a free software called REW, Room EQ Wizard. You can get it free from Home Theater Shack. Just Google it. Get it free. In fact, it's my
again, sorry?
Room EQ Wizard.
Room EQ Wizard. Okay, great.
Yes, you can just type REW software and in Google, and bam, it'll pop right up for you. That's
great. And then how does that work? The software? You use a microphone in the room?
You do use a microphone. You can use just about any omnidirectional microphone, but of course, many of these omnis that you use in the studio aren't flat.
Flat, yeah.
So you can buy a B&K, which you don't need to do, or you can get a $75. What is it? It's a USB powered microphone that's calibrated. It comes with its own cal file, and it works with REW. They recommend it, and many of my clients have used it, and it's fantastic.
Great. So for $75, you can measure your room.
Yeah, $75 for the mic and free software. Bam.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
This is great stuff. Wonderful. And what are you working on at the moment? Are you
Well, I have on my AutoCAD right now a dubbing stage that we're doing. We're doing four right now.
Right.
And one in Guadalajara, Mexico, and two here in Jakarta area. And
great.
The Jakarta area ones are getting Dolby certified, so I have to deal with the Dolby guys.
Right.
No, it's always fun. It's always a learning experience. It's great. And doing that and several garage builds like yours, and little home studio in oh man, I've got so many on the books right now. You hit me with anyway.
That's fantastic.
Probably I have about 20 of them going right now, just studios.
Great. So you're advising people from the smallest kind of spaces to the largest. That's fantastic.
Yes.
And what do? You end up sending them like diagrams for builds, and
we send them things like, let me pull something up and I can show you. For example, here's something I just did. I gotta mail this off, but this is an example. This is a dubbing stage for Dolby Atmos, Dolby certified room.
Great.
And this is one page of it. This is the plan view. I don't know if you guys can see this very well. This is like probably tiny stuff. This is measurements, trapping, treatment. These are speaker points, blah, blah, blah. Listening position. This is the screen down here. It's not annotated on this one. I'm just doing this drawing for speaker positions, basically. And then going into the looking, this is a cut through of the room, sliced right through the high frequency horn, looking down at at all the surrounds. Oh no, this is looking up. Excuse me. Yeah, this is looking up at the ceiling. It's sliced right in the middle of the diffuser in the back. Listening position, screen, LCR speakers up front. So we got Atmos layout here, and then what we got? We got a side cut view and some isometrics. This is the typical drawing files that one would receive. We have a special raised platform. I normally don't like raised platforms, but in this, they wanted seating in front of the mix position. The console here is not shown. not shown here, but this is the Dolby spec, and this is the listening position where they have the console and the engineer sits here. They wanted seats. Whoops. Hello. Oh, they wanted some theater seats in front for their clients to sit and view. So in order for the operator to see over the heads of people watching, I had to raise it.
I see.
You know, that sort of thing. Oh, let's see. Where's my full?
How many people in that room?
This will take what? 1, 2, 3, 4 seats in the front, and the engineer. It's a small room, but it's not too small. It meets criteria.
And this is for mixing.
This is for mixing for Dolby Atmos for theater.
Wow, wonderful.
So that's a theater room.
That would be like the perfect place to watch your movie.
It would. I would love to have one.
Can't you just build one for yourself, John? Come on.
I want to. I'm save my money, buy property, build my house. Good. This is not.
How did you end up in out there?
Oh, it's a long story. I fell in love with an Indonesian princess. More than 8 years ago, and came here in 2008 and stayed. And now we have a 5-year-old little girl and her 16-year-old son, who's my son now. Anyway.
That's great. I love kids. I have 2. It's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. Well, there's 2 here.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. Well, look, thank you ever so much for all this information. This has been really, really useful. Now, we're going to have a link here for your website, so people can check out well, we can even put a specific link to the page, but what was the page called again? Where they'll be going to
where they can get it's my resources page.
Your resources page. Okay, great. Yeah. But we'll put a link to the resources page. Okay. That'll be fantastic. This has been really useful, really helpful. I imagine there's going to be a lot of questions. So if you want to spend some time on YouTube, you might be able to answer some questions.
I will subscribe and make sure that I get notified when there's a question, so I can answer.
This is wonderful. I'd love you because I just finally launched my site after a year of doing this. I've actually now got a site up. I'd love for you to be a blog contributor and write a blog. I think that would be fantastic.
Oh, we'd love to help. Yes.
Yeah, that'd be really cool to have a blog just talking about, what I've been doing. I've only put one up so far, but my blogs are going to be just kind of my experiences of my day, about how I do stuff, the recording process, what it's really like in the real world. Because, as you and I know, most of the people that are doing this actually aren't doing music full time. They're full-time YouTube teachers. Well,
yeah.
I get up early in the morning and, take my son to school and feed my daughter. And then the next thing is like, I'm here, I'm filming and making this. But then the other 12 hours of my day is I'm making records. I'm not quite sure how I do it. Luckily, I have a great guy, Connor, who works with me. But so what I'm trying to do is like really show people this is what it's really like. This is the real world, Sometimes it's the latest and greatest equipment. Other times it's just kind of what works, And what I love about your approach here is you're helping us because you're giving us the what works. And I know a lot of it is like, smoke and mirrors. There's a lot of like really expensive panels and stuff like that. And like you said, ultimately, a lot of people are using the same diffusion or absorption material. They're just making it look prettier and charging a lot of money for it to look pretty. I'm not trying to take away anything, because design is also important as well. Let's be honest. For expensive studios, design is important. You want to walk in and see like incredible, beautiful panels, but at the same time, you might be able to build that panel for $100 as opposed to buying it for $1,100.
Yeah. Well, I try to get my clients, I give them a fantastic design. I say, you can do this yourself. And part of my service, I say, I'm here. You do. I mean, Skype, and we we'll talk it through. There are more than one way to skin that cat.
Yeah.
And I always used to say that. Yeah. You know, so let's get it done.
Yeah.
That's how I work. So
fantastic.
Yeah, happy to help. So
great.
And you know, you said before about people, you know, information and stuff. I want all the information to be available to folks to do it themselves. Now, people that are busy, like you just described what you do, don't have time to do it themselves.
No, I don't.
So, you know, they'll hire somebody, hire me, hire Thomas, hire Wes, hire an acoustics designer. Great. And that's what we're here for. But for the guys that are going to DIY anyway, there's the information. I want to get it out there so they can at least start off on a good foot, you know, a good footing, and not waste their money.
Yeah, because maybe they'll start making some extra money because their room sounds better. They can do better work. They'll start making some extra money, and then they'll get to a point where they'll come back and hire you, and you know, you can take it to the next level. I think that giving back really is a positive thing. Well, thanks, John. I really appreciate it. So as ever, please subscribe, go to the email list on the website and sign up for mine. Go and check out John's website. Please leave some questions and comments below. And thank you ever so much for watching.